This podcast contains a few instances of adult language. Viewer discretion is advised.
This week on Florida's Fourth Estate.
Get out! Get out!
An accused steak-stealing Floridian runs out of a grocery store without pants and gets tased in a different kind of meat.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day.
Here's your Floridian of the week. You're not going to be using that for a while, buddy.
A couple of kayakers brush up against a Florida dinosaur, then they get lost in the woods.
We were kayaking and a gator almost flipped us over. The tail went on our kayak.
And this week's guest, sports director Jamie Seh. She tells us what it's like in the infield during a devastating crash at the Daytona 500.
Newman takes the lead on that final lap, and it's like, wow, you know, he's a football field away, and then all of a sudden you just see his car skidding across that start-finish line on its roof, sparks flying.
Hi there, and welcome to Florida's Fourth Estate. It is the Florida-centric podcast that details all the crazy stuff going on in this crazy state of ours that we love so much. Ginger is still working on her bionic hip. She's walking around like a baby giraffe, but she is happy. She's doing great. And in this week, we get our sports director at News 6, Jamie Seh. Good to see you, Jamie.
It is so nice to join you, Matt. My best to Ginger as she continues to recover. We certainly miss her, but I am honored to fill in her seat today.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. You have had a long week. Weekend. We're taping this the weekend after the Daytona 500, that crazy Ryan Newman crash that took everybody's breath away. We're going to talk about that. You were on the infield for that. Mm-hmm. We also may discuss the Aaron Gordon robbery situation that happened
second
recently.
time, too. He's been robbed twice.
I want to know why that's happening, and I'm sure you're going to tell me
Sure.
Coming up in just a little bit. First, though, we have to cover some of the craziness going on. We had an investigation that aired this week that just blew my mind. So people are apparently sneaking into Disney and Universal and water parks after hours, filming it on YouTube and then posting it and getting thousands of hits.
How is that possible that they're able to get on the ground?
That's what I was wondering. So as you watch these videos, they'll find like a random fence near a road and they'll hop on the top of their car, climb the fence and get in. This is some video you're seeing of them at a water park after hours. I think this is Volcano Bay. They actually go up and try to go down the slides. This is the guy whose YouTube channel it is, and he says he's been banned from Disney. He says he makes money off of these videos. He won't tell our investigator Mike DeForest, who did a great job on this story, exactly how much, but he is monetizing it until Mike DeForest called Patreon, which is how he's getting his money from these, and YouTube, and said, hey, are you okay with this guy doing illegal things? And they were like, yeah, his account's suspended now.
That is tremendous. That's getting results. That's amazing. Why would you? I mean, I understand why you would post it on YouTube just to make money off of it, but I mean, dude, you're going to get caught.
Absolutely. Like, you're putting the video evidence on YouTube.
You can go to jail for what you're doing, because I don't think Disney and Universal finds that funny at all.
They don't like that. Especially, he's climbing up roller coasters. You know, have you ever been on the Yeti roller coaster at Disney's Animal Kingdom?
Yes, I have.
So it's called something else. I always call it the Yeti.
It's like the Himalayan or whatever.
Expedition Everest or something. He climbed up to the top where the Yeti is and got like face to face with that Yeti, which is at the top of the roller coaster.
Oh my
so
gosh.
he's doing some pretty dangerous stuff. He's also been caught breaking into a power plant.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good way to get shot.
I just don't understand these YouTubers. I mean, maybe it's my generation, but it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's dangerous. It's dumb. It could land you in jail or in the hospital or both.
It's true. And, you know, I had this realization once. I was like, look, all these people are making all this money on YouTube. I do television for a living. I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I'm sure I'll make a bunch of money. So then I started to do research on these people who are making like crazy amounts of money. And I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand why people watch this.
I don't understand
I am
it
not
either.
equipped to do this.
No, I mean, I'll go on YouTube for like former MTV music videos because that's my generation. But it's like my nieces who are teenagers, you know, they know all the YouTube stars. I'm like, who are these people? I don't know. But Matt, how do they get on Disney and Universal property? That's
this
crazy.
guy is very sneaky and creative, and he claims that he has helped make these areas more secure. That's kind of how he pitches it. But
whatever. How
you know
old
what
is
he's
this
doing.
guy?
I think he's 26 or something like that. I don't know.
26.
He's just a kid. We all have done dumb stuff, but
Yeah, but
that's,
26, you're going on 30 at that point.
Yeah.
Okay? It's time to get responsible here.
You're getting up
okay?
there. You're definitely old enough to make some better decisions than that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next story. Everybody likes to do a little kayaking in Florida. We know it can get a little crazy. Well, these two ladies were out there. They were kayaking, and it's getting closer to nighttime. And a gator swims by and kind of hits them. They claim this gator's tail like rocked their kayak so much that it freaked them out.
Oh, yeah.
So they decide, we're getting out of the water. They were in a whole crew of people but got kind of separated. So they're getting out of the water. We're going to walk the rest of the way. So they get out of the water. And they get lost in the woods at night.
That's just the worst. That is the worst. I mean, I've been kayaking a ton of times in Wekiva Springs. It's so much fun.
Beautiful.
But it's still, every time I pass a gator, it freaks me out a little bit. But for one to brush up against you, but then the woods. One time, do you want to hear my story?
I do. I want to hear
my
your
story?
Yeah.
Okay, this is me getting lost in the woods. I'm from upstate New York. The Adirondack Mountain Range is in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine and I go hiking up this, it's like a 1.5 mile trail maybe, up to the top of this mountain in Lake George, New York, in early April. So there's still some snow on the ground. The sun is still going down at an early time. So we set out at 3 o'clock. It's going to take us 90 minutes to get up to the top. Maybe an hour coming back. We make it up to the top. We're goofing around the whole time. And there is still snow on the path. So we come down to the sign that says parking area this way, such and such this way. So I'm like, okay, we go this way to the parking area, and it's like a 1/2 mile away. Mm-hmm. But my friend's like, and it's a guy, he's like, no, I think we came up this way. I think we need to go this way.
Oh, no.
So I am an idiot because I trusted him over my instincts. So we go the other way, and we're walking, clearly going more than a 1/2 mile. And I'm like, dude, I think we're lost. And sure enough, we were. We get to this point where we can see the lake and nothing else because the sun went down, by 6:30, 7 o'clock. And we're like, oh my God, what do we do? I had this was the days really before an iPhone. Mm-hmm. So I had a satellite Q phone. It had just enough juice for me to call 911. I had to call 911. Otherwise, we were staying up on that mountain overnight because we couldn't see any trail markers, and then the trees were barren, so there was no. So anyway, we kind of try to make our way back, but we're off a trail. Finally, we hear whistles and see flashlights, and we see our rescue team, but we have to go down this cavern and then up, and I'm all bruised up because I've been falling and slipping on ice. And then they finally lead us out, 2 sheriff's deputies and a park ranger. The poor sheriff's deputies didn't have the right footwear because there's still snow on the ground. So we get out there, and I was working at a TV station in Albany, New York. We get out there, the forest ranger has to take our information. I give him my name, and he looks up at me, he's like, hey, you're on TV, aren't you?
No.
I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. So anyway, that was very frightening. So I feel for those people.
Yeah.
But they were able to make it out.
Good. Well, did the helicopter? They didn't have to bring the helicopter in.
No helicopter.
All right. Well, let's listen here as the helicopter finds them.
We're walking because we were kayaking and a gator almost flipped us over.
Oh my goodness.
The tail went on our kayak. We flipped out.
The tail went on their kayak, and then you could see the video as that helicopter pulls in. You could see them highlighted there. At least they stayed by the water, which is always smart. But one thing about your story that's funny to me, out of many years of marriage, I've learned if there's ever a discussion of which way should we turn, always go with the wife 100% of the time because she's always right.
Yeah, it's a good point. I should have had more faith in myself. I'm so happy that they were able to be rescued, and that's amazing. I'd be freaked out though if an alligator came calling.
Yeah,
Yes,
I agree with you. How would you feel? You like adventures, obviously, because you like walking and hiking at night in the Adirondacks. How would you feel about being sent into space as a tourist?
if somebody had done it before me, if I was not among the first crew,
Yeah.
I think I'd be all for it. And if I could afford it.
You're not a trendsetter.
No.
That's what I'm getting out of you.
No.
Well, if you've ever dreamed of blasting off into space, your chance could soon be coming. And Space Adventures announced they're partnering with SpaceX to launch private citizens on their Crew Dragon. All right, so normally they would send them up to the ISS, but this is going to send up past, like about twice as far as the ISS, 500 miles into space. These tourists will get to go. Falcon 9 rocket, just like the astronauts get. How long you think, what would be your max of how long you'd want to be in space?
Man, not long.
I was thinking like 3 hours would be great for me.
Yeah, I think even that is enough. I think 1 hour is good. I'm
let me
done.
float around.
Float around. It's like, it's like a parasail. It's like after a while, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Eventually, the danger is going to start to set in, and I'm going to realize I should not be here.
Yeah,
I'm not
Earth,
equipped.
Earth is a long ways away.
Yeah, it is. 500 miles, in
Yeah.
fact. Well, 5 days these tourists are going to spend up there. Like, that's a long cruise.
And you can't move, really. I mean, how much space do you have? And you're
Maybe
with
a
the same
closet?
people?
You're in a little capsule.
You're in a little capsule with a whole bunch of people. No, nope.
Is there a bathroom in that capsule? I'm
God,
wondering.
I hope so.
What are you
and
going to
how
do
does
with
that happen? How
I
do
don't
you
know.
do that? Anyway.
But they're not looking for us anyway. They're not. You got to have some serious jack to get it. But they have not set a price yet. Whatever it is going to be too much.
Do you think they'd take meteor rides?
Ooh, little press pass action?
Yeah, little press pass.
Once in a while.
Matt, I'll nominate you. You or Von Anken, because I could see Von Anken doing something like that.
Oh, yeah, but they're not going to cram us into a capsule. Both of us are 6'2" or above, and I need to figure out that bathroom situation real quick.
Oh, and I'd get hangry, too. If they don't have food up there, forget it.
Hey, we have a rule, no number 2s in the green room, no number 2s in the capsule, all right, for
my
5
God.
days.
Yeah, no
Holy
way.
cow. All right, let's move along now that I'm ruining this story. Let's hit it. Derek, we know what time it is.
And now, your Floridian of the Week.
Get on the ground! Get on!
Okay, I don't know if that sounded worse than a normal taser to you, but let me assure you it is. Okay, so I gotta start from the beginning here.
Okay.
Guy on Valentine's Day decides he's gonna make a romantic gesture and he's gonna steal some steaks from a Safeway. This is in DeLand. We got this from the DeLand Police Department. Stakes the steaks and he sticks them in his pants, right? They find out, oh, this guy's got steaks in his pants. We just watched this. So he starts fighting with, one of the people in the store. To get away, he tears his clothes off. So now not only does he not have the steaks, he doesn't have any pants on. Okay? And he's running out of the store. What you just heard there was him getting tased. And I want to ask you, where do you think is the worst place for that taser
I have an idea, but
barb to land?
I have an idea, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on this podcast.
This is a podcast, my lady. We are not on the news. He got tased in the wiener.
Oh. And we're not talking Oscar Mayer either.
He wasn't stealing hot dogs.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day.
Here's your Floridian of the Week. You're not going to be using that for a while, buddy.
Oh, no.
There's Stephen Short.
No romance for you tonight or for the rest of your life.
Those steaks were not leading where you thought they were,
Oh.
Stephen.
Oh, my gosh. Imagine, the nightmares he's going to have after that.
Oh, well, I can tell you his life of crime is over. He's going to start playing it straight from now. You tase somebody in the wiener, they're never doing that again, whatever it is.
How bold of the cops to do it there.
That's what I would...
Were they aiming for it or were they aiming for something else? I mean,
I don't know. Is that what they learn in target practice? They're in the police academy. All right, aim just a little bit lower. That'll get them.
a lot like the chest shot, but we're going. Well, we know he can't run away after that.
No. I've heard people get tased a lot on video from our job. That one is definitely more of a... Oh my gosh. Welcome to the podcasting world, Jamie Seh. You came on a good week.
I love the Floridian of the Week.
Oh, man. So, all right, let's get back to your crazy
Yes.
weekend now as we both wipe the tears from our eyes. Oh, man. Thank you, Stephen Short, for dealing that story to us. So you were at the Daytona 500. You've covered it many times. You're in the infield.
Yeah.
It is, I think it's the last lap
It was
of the race.
Yeah, it went to overtime. You know, with the Daytona 500, we always expect craziness late in the race.
Yeah.
You know, the first 2/3 of the race, even this first 75% of that race, nothing was happening. There was no big one. There's always a big one or several big ones. So we're waiting for that. And then with about 20 laps to go is when all the action happens. You know, people get aggressive and stuff. The drivers get aggressive. Sure enough, there are wrecks towards the end of the race. So there's several restarts. It forces it to go to overtime. Ryan Newman has won the Daytona 500 before. He won it in 2008. He certainly was not a favorite to win this race, but it was him and Denny Hamlin kind of exchanging leads on the final couple of laps throughout overtime. And there were restarts too, because there were other mini wrecks past the 200 laps. So final lap, I'm standing in victory lane, which is at the start-finish line, and you can see, like, you get a look at victory lane, but if you turn around, you get a clear look at the start-finish line and the infield and everything like that. And you know, they start the final lap. Denny Hamlin's in the lead. We think he's going to win, but then we hear this audience react because Newman takes the lead on that final lap, and it's like, wow, you know, he's a football field away, and then all of a sudden you just see his car skidding across that start-finish line on its roof, sparks flying, fire. Denny Hamlin wins the race, and then it's just silent. It was very surreal. I mean, the finish, you know, Denny Hamlin wins by a photo finish, but nobody really cared because you saw Ryan Newman's car on its roof flipped over after this horrific crash. On fire. You know, he was nudged from behind by Ryan Blaney as he was trying to race to the finish. Blaney says he was just going to push Ryan to victory because they both are Fords, and a lot of times the manufacturers team up. And he just spun out, hit the wall, went airborne, landed, gets hit a second time, and that was really the scariest part. And then his momentum took him, you know, the length of pit road. I mean, it was so scary. But then what was really surreal was just the reaction from the crowd. Just it went hushed. And we didn't have any update for 2 hours at the track. Had no idea how he was doing. We knew he was taken to Halifax. We did not know his condition at all. And then finally, after 2 hours, NASCAR released a statement from his race team saying he was in serious condition, non-life-threatening injuries, and it was just like...
Huge relief, yeah.
Huge relief. And now, 2 days later, is it 2 days? 3 days later. Today's Wednesday.
Yeah, today's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
The day of taping.
So 2 days later.
Yeah.
He's walking out of the hospital with his daughters.
Oh, so good
Unbelievable.
to see. Yeah,
unbelievable. Earlier, you know, his team had posted a picture of him and his two daughters. He's in a hospital gown smiling with his daughters. And then his wife, Chrissy, posted video of him just walking out on his own from Halifax Medical Center. He's a tough guy. You know, he's been racing in Cup action for 20 years, full-time for about 19, and he's just as tough as they come. Again, he was not one of the favorites for the Daytona 500, but he's a racer that's always made it difficult to pass, you know, super competitive, and he was there at the end. And I've seen a couple of bad wrecks at Daytona, but this one was particularly violent.
When I usually take a dinner break between newscasts, head home with the family, and as soon as that wreck happened, I got a text. You need to get back here because everybody was worried that this could either be a horrific injury or maybe he lost his life in this. It just looked so bad. And usually, you know, like moments after a bad wreck, I remember Austin Dillon got in a really bad wreck in a July race at Daytona where the only thing that was left was the cockpit, and it looked just as violent as this. But soon after, Austin was out of the car doing an interview on Fox, you know, the network telecast. So it was like, okay, everything's good. This, we did not have any update. And I know it took them 15 minutes just to get him out of the car. They couldn't get him out right away because it was on its roof. They had to tip the car back over, and then they got him out. But they brought out the black screens for privacy.
Yeah, for privacy. But, you know, there hasn't been a fatality in NASCAR since Dale Sr. So it speaks to how the construct of these cars now and the safety devices that are inside of it and how strong the cockpits are now.
And we were watching, obviously, when this came up, we looked at the highlights from Dale Senior, not highlights, obviously, it was horrific.
The video.
The wrong word. We looked at the video from when that happened. When he went into the wall, that was a bad crash, but it did not look anywhere near as bad as what Newman was in.
No, it didn't, but I was watching a NASCAR telecast yesterday. Ricky Craven is one of the analysts, and he's a former race car driver, but he pointed out that there was so much energy expended, like whereas when Dale Sr. went into the wall, all that energy, boom, went right into the wall, and there was nothing else. Ryan's car, some of the energy was taken out with every hit, with every piece of metal that would fly off of his car. So it was just like, okay, maybe, I don't know. It made sense. It didn't make sense to me, but it was just like, okay. Sometimes, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but the impact when Dale Sr. went into the wall, I mean, it was just a straight-on kind of...
And it just jerked his head. He did not have the Hans system, which protects their necks.
Exactly, and that's a result of Dale Sr.'s accident, is the Hans device. They never had it before, and, they've made several improvements in the cockpit. They've made the restraining walls with a lot more give, so some of that energy can be pushed back. It's not just, say a baseball hitting a metal bat or something like that. So I mean, in the 20 years, I mean, one columnist, Mike Bianchi, wrote in the Sentinel that perhaps Dale Earnhardt's death saved Ryan Newman's life.
I bet that's correct.
With all those safety upgrades. And NASCAR's not done. They took the cars. They took Ryan Newman's car, and he was hit by Corey LaJoie when he came down. Mm-hmm. They took both of those cars for inspection to kind of get a better idea of, okay, what worked, what didn't work, where was Newman's car hit, where was LaJoie, the impact of his car, to keep exploring these, because they do not want to have one more fatality at the track. And during the 90s there were a few, and in the 80s there were a few, and we haven't had one since Dale.
Mm-hmm. They've obviously done a good job making those changes.
Yes.
Some people I do hear being critical about the way the races are run and how in the last moments there, everybody's just jockeying for position, and they're worried that someone is going to get badly hurt from this. Have you heard that as well?
I have, especially they talk about the Superspeedways, and the Superspeedways are Daytona and Talladega, where just usually because they're so wide. I mean, the ovals are so wide. Usually on some of the smaller tracks, cars are going just as fast, but the corners come up quicker. So you have to slow down on those corners and stuff. So the speeds are maintained a little bit, but they're going like 200 miles an hour on these super speedways. And, it gets aggressive. And all the drivers kind of admit with the Daytona 500, the most important thing, the only way that you're going to be in contention is if you don't wreck. They expect wrecks in this race. It's never going to be just one clean race or anything. And they just get aggressive because the stakes are so high for this race, too, because everybody wants to win the 500 because it changes your career. But with the super speedways going around those turns and those high banks and, things get hairy. And also, like, you heard of 3-wide racing. Talladega is wider than Daytona International Speedway, but they'll still go 3-wide on Daytona, and you have to be really, really good and have a lot of trust in your fellow drivers to kind of maintain that kind of pack racing without anybody getting squirrely or anything.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening to watch it. And you mentioned, I think it was Blaney who ended up hitting him.
Yeah.
I saw him after saying I was trying to push him to the victory. I'm not a big NASCAR guy, so I don't really know the rules. I'm curious. I'm just thinking everybody is there to win. You said because they're on the same team.
Well,
is that believable? Is kind of my question.
I don't know. They're not on the same race team now. If Ryan had a teammate behind him, I would have. I'm completely 100% in belief of that, because a lot of times teammates will push somebody to victory
or block someone else.
Yeah,
off.
exactly. But they're both Ford guys, so there's Ford, Chevy, and Toyota, and sometimes for your manufacturer, you want to get somebody in victory lane. But when I watched the race highlights, basically the victory was coming between Ryan Newman, Denny Hamlin, and Ryan Blaney. And, Hamlin was in third when that wreck happened. Newman was in front. Blaney was behind him. And Newman was sort of in the middle of the track, and Blaney was kind of coming down. And that's when Newman moved down, to kind of block Blaney out. I'm not sure. I don't know what these guys are thinking.
Sure.
I don't know what these guys are thinking, but perhaps Ryan Newman thought Blaney's going to try and take the low and pass me. So he was, again, it's difficult to pass Ryan Newman. So he's going low, and then Blaney made contact and spun him out. But we don't really know. So I'll take Ryan Blaney at his word. When he said he was going to try and push him to victory, and then Newman went low. But I think Ryan Newman was just trying to protect his lead.
Yeah.
When he went low on the track.
That makes sense to me. But yeah, like you said, we can't get in these guys' heads. Just kind of to wrap things up, it feels like after watching this and seeing him leave the hospital, NASCAR is a safer sport than it was just a matter of a few years ago.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, we've seen some really bad wrecks. A couple of years ago, Kyle Busch broke his leg at Daytona during the July race because he went into a barrier wall really hard. So NASCAR took a look at the track and made improvements on it, making making it a little safer. Where you're not going to feel as much of an impact. I think that's like springier. I'm not sure exactly the engineering behind it.
It's not just concrete.
But yeah, with everything that happens, they look and they examine what they can do better. Like with the catch fence race.
To protect the fans.
Yeah, remember Kyle Larson got in a big wreck in the July race in Daytona, and equipment went into the stands. They've expanded and bettered the catch fence. So with everything, they're always trying to make improvements because safety is their priority. They want to put on a great show, but they certainly want to keep their drivers safe and fans safe too.
Yeah, it's kind of weird the time we're in right now as we watch these old school sports that we kind of loved watching because they're dangerous.
Yeah.
We love seeing people just get crushed in football, with a wreck in NASCAR. But now it's kind of interesting to see our society as we're trying to keep these sports that we love so much, but make them less dangerous and keep them exciting. It's kind of a weird spot to be in.
It is. And, it's funny because up until this wreck, I think we kind of took for granted the risk that drivers are taking when they get behind the wheel of a race car and go 200 miles an hour in pack racing. And this is just another reminder of it. But I think, with things we've seen in the last 20 years, with Dale Sr. passing away, a legend in the sport, Junior Seau from CTE, when we see these men and women who we root for and who some, for us are heroes, pass the way they do, are impacted by the dangers of the sport the way they are, I think it gives us pause and makes us realize that these are human beings and these people are more important than the violence and entertainment that comes with the sports that we love.
That was a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That was a good way to end this
Thanks.
podcast, Jamie Seh. Nice job. You should be on TV sometime.
Maybe I will today. I don't know.
You're going to be on a lot today, I would imagine.
I think so.
Jamie Seh, News 6 Sports Director, thank you so much. Great having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on the Fourth Estate. It was really, really fun.
Oh, you were great. We'll have to have you back on. My name's Matt Austin. Big ups to Tiffany Brown and Derek Mosier, Phil Deems, who help us get this thing on your, wherever you're getting it, online, on your podcasts. Have yourself a great day. This is Florida's Fourth Estate.